2, 1. And we're back. Today we have Heimo Grasser. All right, I got it right. Kind of right. Heimo is the CEO and Chief Awareness Strategist of Same Solutions, which specializes in security.
It's like physical security awareness training.
Awareness training, physical security. Yeah. Interesting. And it's for corporates, for businesses, for people in general. Like how does this work?
Well, so what we produce is, we produce security awareness training for large corporates. And we basically help them boost the, security culture, the, security awareness training programs, and bring that to a level that, yeah.
So when you say security, do you mean physical security, or is it infrastructure security, or what type of security is it? Or digital security?
We do physical security, but should we take a step back and just talk about the whole background?
Absolutely, please do. Take us please on the ride. We're here to ride the Heimo ride.
Yeah, the Heimo ride. So yeah, I come from a very strong security background. I used to, I grew up in Austrian countryside, in a remote village, 11 houses next to a road. And then when I was 14 years old, I joined the military boarding school, then joined the military, spent 10 and a half years in the military.
Wow.
Started, got deployed like everyone else, does, during that time. And then I spent about 5 years studying risk management, corporate security part-time. Came here to the Middle East, it was a funny story as well, by complete coincidence, had never planned to leave Austria. And, by, sheer coincidence, followed a friend of mine who'd already been here before
when did you come here? When did you come to the region?
I moved here in 2012.
Okay.
New Year's Eve. But
New Year's Eve, so you came to party and then just couldn't leave after that. The experience was
yeah. It's a funny story. I think when we go, dive straight into the story time.
Please.
Yeah. So I never wanted to leave Austria. My plan was always I will go, leave the military, finish my security studies, and then work as a security manager for any of the big Austrian corporations. And I used to do a lot of skydiving.
Interesting.
Back in the days.
Crazy. I don't do that at all.
I've never done either or, but I'd rather do skydiving versus bungee jumping any day.
Agreed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we both have fear of heights, extreme fear of heights.
I'll be number 3 in that one, and I've never bungee jumped in my life. Never ever.
So why is that, do you think? Why do people
more confidence in the parachute?
Is it perception?
I think for me it's the confidence in the parachute. It just seems like a simpler contraption, more reliable contraption than a rope that has a little bit of slack on it. I don't know about that.
It's control. For me it's just control. Yeah. And it's something that you're used to. And I have zero issue whatsoever, jumping out of an airplane.
Free fall.
No problem. Absolutely.
So do you need to do tandem, or at this point now you have the experience that you don't need to do tandem?
No, we did like in the military, you do like, your parachuting training, your free fall training and everything else. And then same as you, I'm afraid of heights, but it's a very different thing when you look out of an aeroplane.
Perception, right?
It's perception. Yeah. You just, if you've flown, we all fly all the time.
Of course.
So you look out an airplane at 10,000 meters above ground, you don't feel the relation to the ground.
True.
Anything that's beyond a couple of 100 meters, you can't really tell. And anyone has done a tandem?
No.
Never done.
I'm dying to do it.
Yeah,
I'm just waiting for the right place and the right time to do it.
And it's here to do it. I mean, now it's a little bit difficult, but yeah. And I was gonna go with that. But when you look at a plane of 4,000 meters, it's like looking at the picture.
Yeah,
anything
that's
else.
how I imagine it.
Yeah, it's like and then you fall out, and then everyone thinks you jump out of the plane, and then you immediately feel like you're falling, but you're not, because you're 4,000 meters away. If you're on the Sheikh Zayed Road and you look Burj Khalifa, it's 4 kilometers away, you drive 140 max, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. Follow the rules.
You follow the rules. It still takes about 2 minutes for you to pass,
True.
pass Burj Khalifa. So it's really, you fall out of an airplane, and then you don't feel the rush. It's almost especially when you jump with someone else, for example.
Yeah.
You jump into two people at the same time. So you're falling at the same time. So you're almost, you're not.
You imagine like you're almost level with that person the whole time, and you're just.
And it's beautiful. You can fly your.
Do you still do it? You still for fun, or you stopped?
I haven't in a while. I did a lot. I did about 400 a year. Back home.
What? 400 a year. That's more than one a day.
Yeah, you do like on a weekend. You would do like about 10-ish every day.
How long is the descent? The free fall?
It depends on the curve. It depends on it, but 45 to 60 seconds, depending on the altitude that you jump, or the body position that you're in when you go down, and and a few other things.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. So take it back a little bit. You said you started in the military career, and can you walk me back through how did you progress within the military itself to get to the point where you're at right now?
To the point where I am at right now and where I'm in Dubai, I think we can.
Circle
back, on that one. I grew up as a son, of a. Yeah, good. Cool.
Yeah.
My dad was a police officer, so I always wanted to, do something, similar.
Mm-hmm.
And then, military boarding school sounded the right, idea. And it's just very appealing for like a 14-year-old, to wear, uniform and do lots of sports, and then, at some point get to train, on certain things. And the military boarding school in Austria is to prepare you to become an officer in the military, or to do any of the other things that there's different other ways or pathways that you could do. And what I did, I joined after basic training. So there's like a special program or special unit that you can go to. There's a selection process, and I spent I went through the selection process. It's like a 6 months basic training, and I was with that unit for about 10 and a half years. And
so you had people that were with you during that whole period of time, so they became like
mates.
Your brothers.
Yeah. That's like it's the beauty of the military.
The camaraderie.
Yeah, the camaraderie. One of my closest friends, or many of my closest friends, or friends that I still have from the military. One of my closest friends goes back to the boarding school, who was a year ahead of me, who then went to the same unit, stayed there for 10 and a half years, spent some time abroad as well, went in the same similar fields and everything else. And it's a small world.
Would we call you special forces? Did you reach that?
Yeah, you would do that in Austria. That's every country has different units and everything else. But
you were in that category.
In that category, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But it gets very idolized in movies and everything else, and it's just a different type of units that the unit they would go to, and there's people who are made for this, and there's other people who are made for others, and in hindsight,
my imagination of special forces is always like some super intense physical kind of initiation or test that you have to undertake in order to do that. Was that the case with you?
Well, that's the case with all of those units in general. When you do that.
So can you make us explain to the people, or is that like confidential?
No. It's like so we went like from safe solution to everything else to now. It's fine. It's story time.
This is story time.
Story time.
Well, for us civilians, it's very interesting.
Yeah,
from our side,
I get that. It is interesting. It's fun and it's entertaining when you're in the midst of it.
Yeah.
But I get that it's appealing from the outside and everything else.
I'm always intrigued at the mental toughness that you develop. Is that something that's you would say nature or nurture?
Well, I think
to reach to that level.
I think it's both. I think it's something that obviously, and it's really weird. A lot of who I am, and the values that I carry and everything else, I've learned very early on in my life. I always say like I am the man who I am because of my mom. Shout out to her. She's amazing.
Yeah. Shout out to all the
moms. Shout out to all of the moms.
Yeah.
And I grew up on a farm, in a rural Austrian countryside, and there's a lot of, you go to school, you come back home, you help, you work, and everything else, and you learn a lot about discipline, hard work, resilience, and everything else, and you learn to appreciate nature and whatever you have, and by Austrian circumstances, I grew up in more humble circumstances, which I'm really appreciative of, right now, where I am in my life, because it set me off in a certain direction.
Yeah.
Lays the foundation.
It lays the foundation
for the hard work, the appreciation for the things that you're achieving, of course.
And then you are, a certain person. You have a certain, view of who you are, who you want to be.
Yeah.
And the rest just follows out of that.
And it comes at an early stage in your life.
It comes at an
early
early
stage.
stage.
Either early.
Well, I think, you don't see this at the level when you are, or where you, when you're at that level in your life. But I think what you definitely do if you look back, you just you connect the dots, and you've always been that type of person.
Yeah,
You've always embraced those type of opportunities. You've never shied away from challenges or anything else around that, and it just then follows through. And then you go to the boarding school, or it's the same thing. You put yourself out there in a new environment. You're 14 years old. And you become very independent, already.
Of course.
And when I compare this, my wife's Nicaraguan. That's a complete different society where it's
a family unit. Multi generations are all in the house together.
Yeah, you're looked after, all the time, which means you're not an independent person. By the time you reach 18, 19, 20, 21.
True.
And when, back then, to come back to your earlier question, when you then join, the military, it's the same thing. It's just normal. It's just what you do. It's what everyone, when you tell someone, it's like I went to a boarding school, you're like, oh, those stuff's like best time ever. Yeah, I didn't want to leave.
I'm sure you had all sorts of stories, sneaking out, go see the ladies.
Well, yeah, and I knew you were trying to bring that hard, but it's like it's almost admitting to a crime on camera.
Yeah, that's true. Did none of that. We stayed. We followed the rules. I made a bed. You could bounce a quarter off my bed sheet. I always imagine. Do you have to do that?
Well, you do. You do certain things, but there's no quarter bouncing. But yeah, of course, you're 14. You're a teenager. You do things that you're not supposed to be doing, and you bend the rules, and you step over the rules. You get caught. You get punished. You don't get caught. You learn from it. You've gotten away. Everyone has done.
We've all done that. We've had our fair share of
for sure.
Those kind of things.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that you've done the military part, were you ever deployed to any hostile environments? Or did you face any real action?
What this is always when you're in the military, you are there for a reason. You train to get deployed. You get deployed. You come home. You relax. You train again. And then you get, deployed again. But deployments are very different, from country to country, from, theater to theater, from, what you do during those deployments. It, very much depends on your role that you have and everything else. And, it's, so I spent time abroad. I spent time in the Balkans, spent time in Chad, in Africa, in Central African Republic, spent time in Afghanistan, and everything else. And it was always an interesting.
You were in the Congo.
I was in Chad and Central African Republic.
Okay. Chad.
Yeah.
All right. I was
the best deployment. I really enjoyed. Most adventurous deployment.
Really,
I can imagine.
Yeah, it was good fun. It's good fun.
Wow. So and then you've taken this whole cycle. You went through the military.
Yeah.
Then you decided, I want to work for a corporate, or I want to set up my own business.
Well, in the military, you have that the military needs a lot of soldiers, but not many generals.
Yeah.
So they want to incentivize people to stay for a certain period of time, for a few years, whatever it might be, and then they give them opportunities to then go and do something else. And in Austria, you can stay for 10.5 years. And then they pay for your education program and everything else. So they paid for university, which, in Austria is not that much anyways. It's 400 euros a term.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Which, the Austrian system are very, much a fan of. And I always wanted to stay in Austria. And, I told you that I was like, military, I really liked skydiving. So on the weekends, I went skydiving on the weekends as well, then became a tandem instructor. So worked as a tandem instructor. So took over the tandem business at the local drop zone. The local drop zone is really not like here, Skydive Dubai. It's very professional. Back home is like it's like a
mountain.
It's like a club, it's where people come together, they go hang out, go skydive, have a good time.
It's a lot more relaxed.
It's super relaxed. There's people camping on the drop zone, there's
Okay,
lots
cool.
of,
It's more cultural.
it's
than-
more cultural. It's
Yeah.
like lots of barbecues, a little bit of drinking, in the evenings, and
Nice.
Cool.
it's like the place where you want to be, on the weekends, which did lead to some relationship challenges, obviously.
Obviously,
but,
obviously.
And yeah, and then what was I gonna go with that? I lost my train of thought. But coming back, so I did a lot of tandem skydiving.
Yeah.
And then I always wanted to stay in Austria to continue with my life. It's just knew that
It's the place that you're used to.
Yeah.
You're like, I can't leave.
bought a
this place.
house, bought a house at home. So it'd been there for 10.5 years. So left the military, took 8 months off just to go skydiving for the whole summer.
Nice.
And then any other plans. And then, my very close friend, a very close friend of mine who had left, he had always wanted to leave, Austria. He always wanted to, go explore the world,
Venture out,
move to Lebanon, move to the region. And he had followed another friend, of mine. Security is very, it's a
small community.
Yeah. And I came to Dubai to go skydiving with him because I always wanted to skydive over the palm. You want to have like one
That
of those
picture,
pictures.
Of course.
That one picture.
That
That
one picture.
Every person I know has that. That one picture.
But everybody takes it differently. Some are more
Yeah.
freaked out.
Yeah, no. I'm
Some
sure
are
he'd
more-
be all like,
He's more like his hair is perfect.
Yeah. No, and then, you take 10 turns, and getting those pictures.
to get the perfect picture.
Get the perfect picture. And, I still remember, I think I came here like, Sunday and, Monday we went skydiving. Tuesday came home. He worked for this company that, that helps large corporations to support the business travelers,
Okay.
all over the world.
Mhm.
And he came home. There was like in 2012, the Arab Spring 2011.
Yes.
Then 1 year later, 2012, and I'm gonna, mispronounce his name. Then when Morsi was gonna be announced as president when the election happened, there were rumors floating around that Morsi did win the election in Egypt, but Shafiq was gonna be announced as a president.
Okay.
So there was, rumors floating
Yes.
around the election fraud and everything else. So there was people on the street again, Tahrir Square and everything else. So this company, then deployed him to prepare another evacuation. He'd already been there, the year before, to be, prepared if things kick really off in Egypt,
Mhm.
so that they can get the internationals out, from that area.
Yeah.
And so he had to leave, I think, on like Wednesday. I came here like, Sunday, whatever, for a week. And it's like in June, July, or whatever he was. It's like you don't want to be in Dubai by yourself.
Definitely
in,
not.
in June.
In the
when it's
middle
like-
of summer.
In the middle of
Yeah.
summer.
Especially coming from Austria.
Yeah, especially coming from Austria. So it's like, I'm not going to stay here by myself. So I just bought myself a ticket and joined him, to Egypt. Because I really
Let's go for the ride.
let's
see
go for
what's
the ride.
happening. Yeah.
See what's happening. See
Interesting.
what, in a company like, this, how they prepare an evacuation. Because I thought it's like, it's good lessons learned for later on in Austria. And it was really interesting. Like I still have pictures with me sitting on Tahrir Square with like a Shafiq
wow.
flag and a Morsi flag. It's just,
Oh, wow.
at that time, during the day it's fine. During the day it's
Yeah.
perfectly fine. We went there in the evening. And the evening was quite, intense, especially for someone looking like me. Technically,
Like a
shouldn't be.
bullseye on you.
Yeah, you shouldn't be there.
You should
so
be
now,
there. Yeah.
now with your new security protocols, you would tell people not to
Yeah,
be
you shouldn't do
there.
that.
You just shouldn't.
Yeah.
shouldn't.
But then
Highly advisedly not. to
I
do it.
don't know, you shouldn't. But then, long story short, we when I was there, then I moved back home went back home from Egypt, and then when the same company had a job opening, for a position in Dubai,
You took
I
it.
was asked, what I would be interested in because apparently I've had some self-starter abilities or whatever else. And I was like, you know what? Absolutely. Why not? I'll come to Dubai for 2 years, gain some experience, go back home.
That is, by the way, the typical story of every
Yeah.
person in Dubai. Guys, we've all done it. We come here and we say, listen, 2 years, maximum 4, and then 15 years later, you're still here. Man, this
Yeah.
place just has a pull, right? It just
It
kind of
does.
keeps you here. So you worked for them in security.
Yes. So I worked for this. So I came 2012, New Year's Eve.
Mhm. Had a blast.
Had a blast. Absolutely. He picked me up on the, first day in Dubai. So I came for 2 years. It emptied out my house in 3.5 weeks. Got rid of, put stuff to my mom's place, and then just opened the house and said, like, ask my friends, like, hey, just come to my place and pick up whatever you want. There's people coming and just carrying out, barbecues and
that's cool.
Couches and everything else. And then I came here, and my dear friend Ulrich, he picked me up from the airport. It was a great surprise. So we went, took a nap at his place. And he had this tiny little, small little boat. It was called, Happy Horse. So we went out, wakeboarding, had a few,
cool.
Nice
drinks on the boat. And then it was like back in the days, it was still Sundance or whatever it was called. It was still, the Atlantis.
Yes.
Thing.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So went to Atlantis, came here. So it's like, this was my first day in Dubai. And then, you know how Dubai is, people tend to be very open, so there's really they come, and there was like and it's really I'm not player or anything else, but there was like 3 girls who came up to me to ask me, like in Austria it would never happen. There's no,
this place is amazing.
Yeah, it's like 3 girls that came up to me. It's like, hey, where are you from? How long have you been here? Like the Dubai question, which you just don't know the first day. That those are the questions you're gonna be asked now for the rest of your life.
Yeah, exactly. Every single person that you meet.
Yeah. And then I was like, this is the best place on earth. I'm never going to leave.
What's interesting is that's never happened to me.
Yeah.
Ever. Listen, I'm just, why? Like, I get it. I try sometimes to look nice. Like, just say hi. Doesn't need to be anything serious. Just hi. Anyways.
Yeah.
So, I'm not familiar with that problem. But so you enjoyed it. You came here. You settled in. You've obviously worked throughout. And then you set up your company.
No, so I worked.
Okay, I'm jumping. All right.
So there's 3 steps in between. So I worked for this, consulting company for 2.5 years. Then moved for this, medical technology company where we, happened to meet, and to take, a security role to look after Middle East and Africa and now a little bit of wider region.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I, which fantastic company, I really love it. It's absolutely amazing. To work for a really great manager, I really have to acknowledge that, because everything that, came after that is to a large result based on the relationship that I have, with everyone in this company. And I realized there was a gap in the market. I looked at, looking for, security training or travel security training for about, the 15,000 travelers that we had. Looked at everything in this market, couldn't find anything that I would, and this is one of the things I'm very passionate about, that would have been proud of to put in front of people, and that I would have been happy to put my name to it. And I just got super frustrated with the fact, and then looked into developing something in-house, and then we realized quickly that okay, you can talk to your in-house development team, but it takes you about 400 hours to project management and everything else, and push this forward as a proposal, and it got denied. Because we said like, we have the money to pay for it, but no one has 10 weeks to spare to go through that process.
Do that,
yeah. And I was like, you know what?
I'm just gonna do it myself.
That's
amazing. That's amazing. So you found a gap. You seen all the things around you. Such a great entrepreneurial story, right? So you come, you're looking for something, you can't find it, and you're like, you know what, I can do this, and you just went for it. When did you start Same Solutions?
Well, it's what you just said is just such a funny thing, because it always just start. It's only started as a hobby. And I was like, the same friend, sitting in his veranda and said like, hey, I've told him the same story, and it's like, why does this take 400 hours? This is just way too long. Why can't I create something that is 80-90% done and then just customize it to people?
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, and blah blah blah, and we just fantasized over it, and then I was like, you know what, let me just try, and I just had back then. Literally, the first thing that I did was on Google. It's like, how to develop e-learnings. This is how I started. This was my subject matter expertise when I started my business. Like,
that's it.
Google. That's the first step. And then, went to London, went to the Learning Technology Conference, just to, see providers and everything else. And then, picked up this idea of which then, this is a sheer coincidence. There's like the soft skill training.
Yes.
That this company is like a Royal Mail type, shout out Sponge Royal Mail. I really thank them for what they have done. That's
amazing.
Really has set the way for everything that was to come then afterwards. They they did something really smart. They, social or soft skill training. You can tell people what they should and how they should have certain discussion. They just did something very simple. It's a film something in an ego shooter perspective where you just walk into an area, and then you have this guy swearing, and then you as a manager, what do you do with that situation? And depending on whatever you pick, just develops into a different direction. And I was like, that's brilliant. I'm just going to do the same for security.
Yeah.
And that's
amazing.
Yeah. So it's sort of like role playing or putting the person in the environment in a virtual setting kind of way.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
And each decision takes you down a different
road.
So it's almost like a video game.
Yeah.
If you really think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we did. And
you gamified it.
Gamified it. And my I'm not a video guy or anything else, or it wasn't, but I had done a lot of tandem skydiving videos. So I would do like, a lot of...
Came back to skydiving.
So that's what all the skills were. And then the security. So you have the security knowledge now. You have the video knowledge. And I just had to learn about the rest of it. So I had this idea. And it's very funny because I, was listening to the first couple of episodes. You said like you had like 5, setbacks at the beginning.
Yeah.
Was that?
Yeah.
We started with episode 6.
So we did have episode 1, 2, up until 5.
6 is the first one that we published that you guys can see on YouTube.
And we actually recorded them, but we felt that we can produce better quality. We still have that available, but
absolutely. So
it was a progression. Until today,
we're learning.
Every podcast we do, we're learning something new and we're making new mistakes, which help us in the next episode. And that's how it works.
Yeah.
So that's the best way to do it. And again, just like you said, how to e-learning, we did literally everything was self-taught.
Just get started.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So it's amazing. So you just did it, and then you've grown it, right? Like now it's. And when did you start it? I think.
So I had the idea in 2015. And then, 2016, I started was learning about this.
Yeah.
And then I had this idea of doing this and went to Nairobi. So this is a funny story. So I went to Nairobi in, I can't remember. It might have been April. You've been to Nairobi?
No. Beautiful place.
Beautiful place.
Yeah, beautiful place.
Yeah. So I went to Nairobi in April 2016 or whatever it was, and had the idea of I want to film a scenario in an ego shooter perspective where I'm getting robbed in Nairobi. This was the whole thing. This was just the whole idea. That was as much as I had.
So it's a POV. So POV.
Yeah.
So the viewer sees your experience as being robbed.
Yeah. So I bought a camera at Virgin that I'd never used before.
Okay.
Same as you, most probably.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, sounds very familiar.
Bought a camera that I'd never used before because I thought that's the camera that I want to use. It was an Osmo, whatever. It was brilliant. And then went to Nairobi, met this guy who I met before at International Success, who also at this company, and now we've shouted it out. It's a great company, by the way.
Shout out to ISS.
Shout out to ISS, who used to help us evacuate people from South Sudan. Now he's in Nairobi, so I asked him, hey, Ian, can you help me sort out this with a few actors and stuff? And he's like, yeah, sure, my driver can help us and this and that.
I can see where this is going.
Yeah, cool. No, it's really cool. It's just a funny story. And then it's so where are we gonna do this? So we meet in this bar, so we map out this whole scenario, literally,
on the go.
On the go.
Yeah.
Now these days, now we work with production companies and everything else, so you have to script and storyboard.
Of course.
3 months process.
Multiple takes.
Yeah, and everything else, and which is great. Production quality is way better. We've outgrown this, but I do miss those days. So we just went there. We had those 3 guys, and a knife because they obviously need a knife when you play it around. And so we filmed this whole day, and we have this amazing footage. And I was like, wow, this is beautiful. And then the deal was, so we filmed at this one hotel. Obviously, we didn't have any permits, first time. Because I didn't even know what permits were.
You need to get exactly.
Or that they needed permits. So now, obviously, you have to go through this whole, you have to insurance, you have to have permits, and everything else, privacy and everything else comes in. So, when you don't know about, it's bliss for ignorance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so we do all this filming at this place, and they said, you can do this, no problem, but you have to give me, a copy of the footage. So, that's fine, I can do that. Why not? So at the end of the day, so we do this full day of filming, and then instead of copy paste, at the end of the day, I cut and paste this footage over to him.
Oh no! So you gave you only footage.
I gave him the footage, which obviously didn't realize. didn't do the editing because it was just a hobbying at the time. So I waited, to hire an editor because I didn't want to do it myself. So I went to it, was like, let it sit like for 2 weeks and was trying to find an editor. And then I was supposed to meet the editor. So couldn't find the footage.
Oh my God.
Oh no.
So it's just like, obviously had over filmed because you can recover certain parts because if it's not deleted, it's not deleted.
True.
But I had already filmed over it. So it's like, went on to the hotel, the guy.
Please help me out. This guy's like using your footage for his own security company that he formed.
No, this guy had already left. They had formed a mistake. So the footage was gone.
You never got it back.
No.
Never got it back.
Ouch.
So it's like, in terms of setbacks, so I, spent this whole weekend, flew to Nairobi and everything. That for me was like, you know what? It shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't, that's not supposed to be.
I thought that story was going to go where the guy actually robbed you.
Yeah, imagine.
This is where I thought the story was going to go.
I have different stories, where they ended like that. Yeah. And then, so this was like in 2016. And then, met my wife luckily. And then I didn't do anything for 3 years. And then she pushed me at some point. It's like, hey, really have to pick this up again. And then, one day on a Wednesday, booked a flight on a Friday, went to Nairobi again.
Yeah.
Met a few people that I had hired now Facebook. I had prearranged all of that.
Okay.
Access on Facebook, refilmed the whole scenario, and then, build an MVP, put it in front of people. Someone really liked it, gave me a shot, which is always important. Get the first paying customer, we really hold dearly, and we've always made sure that that's our main priority, to keep them happy.
Yeah,
amazing.
And then the rest, did it for 2 years myself, and then realized that meant I can't do it by myself anymore. And then had this whole
build a team,
natural progression,
progresses, and everything else. And then I'm now splitting my time between my day job with this tech company, which I still absolutely love, and it's a great company to work for, and this amazing team that I have now with Same Solution, amazing clients that I have there. Basically just grind through the week every day to keep both alive.
So basically, how you do it is if you a typical client, you would create custom videos for them, or you would give them the stock footage that you have based on the scenarios that they want to create.
We do both.
You do both.
We do both. We do something that really works for everyone. For the client in whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's
Work
out. We do whatever works for the client. Either custom produce or anything else. Or take something that we have pre-produced and then customize to them. We basically just build an engine. This whole idea is of I've built a company, almost an agency that I always wanted to have myself.
Yeah.
And I have access to graphic designers, I have access to script writers, I have access to amazing technology team, I have access to an amazing video agency, and whatever I come up. Because I'm my own customer. I have a day job, the same job as all my customers. So whatever I feel like I would want to have, I just go out there and produce.
Amazing.
And then, and generally it works pretty well for the people that we work with.
So advice for all the people that are looking to set up a company.
Set up their own company.
Seriously. Aside from what we said already, which is just do it. Is a natural thing. But other than that, like any sort of tips, tricks.
Yeah, it's really interesting one. I had a 2 hours call, with another friend of mine who has been dreaming about having his own company, and I've been lucky that I've found something where my passions and my skills and my interests overlap.
Yeah,
and that's really important.
Of course,
if you're not passionate about what you do, and that's the same for your day job, for the business or anything else. I think if you can't find anything that you're passionate about, don't even try, because the money is not the motivator. Of
course, for sure. For sure. I think what most people struggle with is finding that passion, finding that niche where they fit in, and it's easier said than done.
No, of course,
but you have to do it. It's just get up and do it, and if you fail, don't quit. Try something else. And keep trying. And it's a process.
It's a process.
The obstacles that we've come across this, I can tell you, if maybe at a different time in my life, I would have probably said, I'm done with
drop
this.
Drop it, walk away.
Because it's the time in my life right now. This makes most sense, and it kind of comes together. I've always been intrigued towards having technology around me, setting up audio, visual as a hobby, and I never thought I would actually do it.
Yeah.
You know, is it being music production, video production, all of that. Having interviews or conversations with friends, talking about fitness, talking about entrepreneurship, talking about anything that interests me. And this kind of listening to other podcasts motivated me.
Yeah.
You know, and having Namir as well at the same time being motivated to do it, it's the right time to do it. And let's seize the opportunity and do it.
Yeah. And that's what it is, right?
It's exactly
just amazing. Like, you're talking about passion and where it overlaps, right? That's always been a struggle. And like you, I've had my own business. I experienced that. But unlike you, I didn't have a passion for it. And I did it for 8 years. And 8 years, right?
Yeah.
Imagine. Grinding. And it becomes purely transactional.
It was money motivated.
Extremely money motivated. And look, in the beginning, when it's going well and money's flowing and you justify it, right? You just say, this works. This works. It's wow. Right.
We just realized something new.
Yeah.
Phones cause interference to microphones.
Sorry, guys. Anyways, so I was just saying that money motivation can only take you so far. And then you realize this, just doesn't make sense. It becomes a grind to get up every morning. It becomes like, it's just a hassle.
Yeah.
And to finally come to a place again where I found a passion, you know what I mean? And we know that this isn't work, right? This is not work. Yeah. This is pleasure every step of the way with all.
Whether it makes money in the future or doesn't.
Yeah. It's irrelevant.
And that's the other thing.
Irrelevant.
It's irrelevant. I think, there's so many people who start, and maybe there are people that get motivated by money or incentivized by money. But when you think about this, I started in 2015 with an idea. The first time I got paid, I might get this wrong now, I think it was 2018. It's the first time I got money, for that. I started I had my license in 2017. So I worked like for a year on the MVP, which is like trying to, build a small, version of what you're trying to do. So they can get feedback, so they can reiterate and then, create another version of that. First time I got paid. So when 2017 got the first client, but then you go through, legal agreements, master service agreement, then you have to deliver. And then there's 90 days payment terms. The first time you get paid is 2018. That's about 2.5 years of grind before you see the first time, see the first time money. Maybe there's other businesses obviously that, go quicker. And,
of course.
And I did take it, since I built it part-time. And that was the other thing. It's like when we come to controversial wisdom or whatever it might be. What was I going to say? Money can never be for me, it's not.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely
not.
not.
Yeah, it is
and
not.
Look, I think this is a lesson I think most people already know this. We live in a time where we're all about quick gratification.
Yeah.
We want instant pleasure, instant, entertainment. And unfortunately, the reality of business and the reality of success, and not that we're experts or not that, I'm sitting there and preaching to people, but honestly, there's no way around just hard work and love and passion.
Love and passion.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, what I've just been, blessed and coming back to, the very beginning is like, I have always seen myself as someone, when you have this image of yourself, what do you want to be? And, what the ideal version of yourself is supposed to do in that moment.
Yeah.
The ideal version of yourself is supposed to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and spend 3 hours of work to ensure that it works, grinds through that before they go to work. And also, the one thing that I've always made sure is like, and the same with my day job, that I have always ensured that I deliver and over deliver.
Yes.
To get into a position that I never get anyone question. Because I have a business now where I have 2 full-time employees, 2 part-time employees. I work with about 36 freelancers and developers and everything else.
Wow.
And I do this part-time. And, everyone would tell you, it's like, everyone you'll talk to, and other people who would always say like, with the conventional wisdom, it's like, once you have something that's product market fit and you have paying customers and you say that people like it, why aren't you going full-time? Well, I just don't want to, because I'm passionate about what I do on the other side as well.
Sure.
And, just because I'm passionate about this one particular aspect, there's a difference between being passionate about, what I am, about security awareness, producing videos that, people are creating something that I would be proud of to put in front of people. Doesn't mean I'm passionate about all the other aspects of entrepreneurship, but I'm sure you will share.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is like setting up an accounting framework, making sure you have all the legal paperwork.
Of course.
The issues, getting your, taxes done and everything
Dealing
else.
with the people, right? As
Dealing
well,
with
like
the
the people and being responsible. I think that was a hard thing. I think it's one of the hardest things when you deal with setting up your own business, is the fact that you realize when you work for a company and you have employees or people reporting into you, it's one thing. You know that the company is going to be there, salaries are paid. It's not on you, right? You just have
their livelihood.
Yeah, you just have to maintain a relationship. You just need to help them develop, help them grow. But when it's your own, it is. I don't know how I looked at it, and maybe Heimo, in your case, you look at it in the same way. I look at them and I look at their families as my responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every decision.
And it's an enormous pressure.
Of course. Every decision that you make is impacting on not just him, but everyone that's dependent on him.
Yeah.
And it just adds that layer, which if you're not motivated, if you don't have a passion, that's where the money just, it will not fuel you enough. It will not get you over the line.
Yeah.
And that's the difference, right?
Yeah.
So,
and you need to know what's your place in that. And we've just worked it out. And I had like a year and a half where I didn't know where's my place in the whole, same solutions, team structure, entrepreneurial structure, and whether I need someone else to help me with that. And initially, one of my best friends has joined me as our CEO now, who used to look after, I thought, we initially thought that he would look after, all the content creation and would do, again, produce something he would produce something that I would be proud to put in front of people.
Yeah.
But I'm very particular about quality and, certain issues and everything else. It's my baby. And we came into the issue where he himself said, like, I think, what we've produced here is good enough. And I said, like, we can't. It's not. And we almost fell out personally over the fact that, we came into this argument that he wanted me to do something like, setting up the company structure and providing leadership and everything else, whilst I wanted him to do something that is like delivering quality on that level.
Yeah.
And we, for 6 months, got in a massive, and he's one of my best mates. And he was actually my best man as well. And we just, couldn't talk to each other anymore. Wow. What we realized then at the point, hey, listener, we have just made a mistake by putting ourselves in a position where, and we switched. We just switched. He is now doing all the accounting, all the legal, all the paper, the background, hiring the people, talking to recruiters, setting up, our frameworks, which is brilliant. He's brilliant about. And I continue doing what I'm really passionate about and realizing where your weaknesses are and putting the right people in here. Even if it, if conventional business says you're the CEO, you need to, set up the framework, you need to set the company. If you're not good at that, or if you might be good at that, but you're not passioned about that, or you can't step back from other things, you need to realize that. And it's, what everyone, all of those things are in 100,000 and 150,000 books out there. And all the knowledge is out there for you to get as well. But learning by doing and going through that pain the same way as you with your, podcast, there's nothing like that.
There's nothing like that. But that's such an amazing lesson, right? And I think, I don't know, I've been fortunate that I've played in both sides, right? And I got a really good experience at a very young age on having my own business, and I've dabbled in the corporate. And I think you touched on a very specific point where you're saying the story of the switching roles, right?
Yeah.
I find a lot of people in a regular structure, in a the proper world structure of business, assume that just because they're in this place, they're meant to lead across all elements. I am the senior person on this table. I need to lead everywhere.
Yeah.
And that giving up or delegating or, realizing your strengths and weaknesses and your team's strengths and weaknesses is something that is so undervalued and not promoted enough. I think there's so much pressure put on the senior leadership to want to do everything.
Yeah.
And it kind of defeats the purpose of having a team and
completely.
So
but that comes back to leadership. We forget the true meaning of leadership, and it comes down to that: is that it's not about control. It's not about being the guy that makes all the the big boy decisions of the accounting and all of these things. It's more like, no, let's look at the best way to run this operation more efficiently, where we're producing exactly what we want to produce, rather than assuming roles and saying, no, I'm in a position of power. I'm the one that has to make these decisions. Yeah. And that's
humility. I think that what it comes back to. It's humility.
That's it.
And, appreciating what's your place and what do you want to do? What do you really get? And it comes back. I'm not motivated by money. The first time, and I still remember this, the first time I got money, was at this CrossFit place, with two friends. I'm a very social person, and friends are really, important to me.
Yeah.
So it was this CrossFit place with two of my close friends, who always come to Dubai, Thailand, who always come to Dubai, go skydiving as well. So it seems to be like, a connection. And I was at this CrossFit place, and then, we had some chat up before, and then I, received a text message from the bank saying like, you've now received that money. You know how much excitement I got out of that? Zero. Like
That's
nothing. It was like, you look at this, it's like, okay, fine. What I get excitement out of that is like, coming on a call after something has been rolled out and someone telling me like, hey,
that was excellent.
That was excellent.
That
was awesome.
The feedback.
And if you, if you are, maybe there are people out there that are, motivated by monetary, by dollars in their bank account. But, if I, just throw something out there, what's the difference in terms of numbers and everything else? Is really, how does it make you feel? And say like, I'm going to give you $49,000 US, or I'm going to give you $35,000 US. It's just it's just money.
Money. Yeah.
It just doesn't
comes
really,
and goes.
It comes and goes. There's always more money that's gonna, that you will be able to make, and if you apply yourself and everything else, but it's just doesn't mean anything.
It's interesting. You brought up a point about money. I'm just remembering.
Yeah.
They were saying that there is a threshold of happiness to income, and it's like it's a steep curve. So there is poverty.
Yeah.
Where money can actually bring you happiness. So that's clear, and everyone's
absolutely
aware of that. But then that figure and happiness kind of come together and kind of level off. And funnily enough, it's at about 50. I want to remember the number, but I'll say 50 or 60,000.
Yeah.
Please, guys, correct me. Put it in the comments if you guys know this or have heard of this. It's out there, and I'll probably look it up afterwards. But yeah, it's something like 50 or 60 grand, and then that's it. And then anything you earn beyond that, it's not providing you with additional happiness. So, that imagination, if I'm making $1 million, my life is so much better. It's not actually statistically or through running, kind of different kind of surveys, they figured out that, at 60,000 is the cap where you cover what your needs are.
You have the basics, you have food, you have shelter, you have education, you have healthcare. You can afford, a holiday, whatever it is, this whole idea about, I need to go to a 5-star hotel or whatever. I bought one. It's very funny. I bought one. Was this one watch that I always wanted to have. I bought an IWC once.
Nice.
So always beautiful, and I'm wearing
Portugueser.
Yes,
beautiful
watch. Beautiful watch. Very happy. Was wearing it for my wedding. Was wearing it. I do wear it for occasions. But when I got it, I was like, I guess it's just a watch.
Yeah,
that's it. That excitement is just like a flash,
and
then
that's it. That is it. And it's really, it for you to figure out what really motivates you and what really excites you, and having the humility, to know where your place is, and if your place is, to find another partner to, or we have now had, what I have is, Joe now that, that can do things that you can't, and I there's certain things I just can't do, or that I don't want to do, because I could do it. I could set up an accounting framework, but I just don't want to spend my time on that.
Yeah.
Guys, sorry I'm interrupting, but guys, this comes perfectly into the title of this podcast, which is Stay in your lane. Your lane. Guys, stay in your lane, man. Know your place. This is really a big part of the whole kind of thing that we were trying, the message that we're trying to get across, and I think it relates. We played it as a parody, we played it as a play on words, but in many respects and across a lot of elements of life, it's important to know
where you want to be.
Yeah. Where you want to be, and know your limits, and there's nothing wrong with not knowing. There's always someone that has more knowledge than you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
If you can enter into life with that mindset, that framework, that you can learn from every single interaction that you come into, it's such an amazing feeling, because you enjoy every interaction on another level. It's like opening your eyes to something that you never experienced before. And I think this is a big part of why I'm part of this podcast, and I think with you as well, right? Is learning, right? You sit there and every conversation brings you something new. It's just
So you touched on CrossFit.
CrossFit
scares me.
Yeah, it is scary. Yeah,
it's quite prone to injuries, isn't it?
It's very intimidating.
I'm not doing it anymore because of injury. but
you injured yourself doing it.
Yeah, but it's like you injure yourself because you're doing it. You push yourself too much. I love the community. Let's put it like this. What is behind that, I think, is really excellent. It's functional fitness and it's community. And the idea of, pushing yourself amongst, others is really, really excellent. It just works for me, and I really enjoyed that all along. I've had a shoulder injury, unfortunately. Was a stupid workout of the day that wasn't even heavy, or anything else. I was just tired and did a movement that I'm not supposed to do. And that was it, and now I might go back at some point. I do, every now and then when, friends go for session every now and then. And I still do, Olympic lifting and do still, weightlifting. But that's just you incorporate complex exercises in your own workout routine. So I still do I go to and we have kettlebells at home now that we're keeping ourselves fit throughout, all of this. And it's just.
Kettlebells is, I've heard amazing.
Have you ever done it?
I've tried it, but I'm not seriously enough. And that's the thing. I think everybody that's done it consistently, they see a lot of benefits and they swear by it.
Of course, because it's the compound movements. It's so weird because when you grow up, I don't know. Again, I'll talk with your experience. You were in the army, you were in the military. Yeah. You grew up and you were surrounded around functional training, so it makes sense for you. But like for example, for me, when I started to learn about working out, I was 16. I started to read magazines like at the time, which was popular, was Flex. All these like massive huge guys. And by the way, shout out to the bodybuilders. We have Mahmoud Ad-Durra, my cousin, Olympia contestant who's going to be joining us in mid-June. But anyways, coming back to the story. So I grew up kind of learning about working out in that context, in that environment of isolation movements.
Yeah.
It really didn't focus on these amazing, compound, which now at the age of 40 now, I've learned that, listen,
it's all about functionals.
That's the way to do it. Like if you really, so any sort of, kind of advice for people would be like, guys, doing those compound movements, squats, cleans.
Just get a trainer. Just get it. Seriously, I
also fair.
100%. It's for the pure reason, just get a good and expensive trainer.
Yeah.
And, I have to shout out. Can I shout out to someone?
You can shout out whoever you want. Of course.
Absolutely. So, two things, that I want to say. You would think, in the military that do a lot of functional we did a lot of functional fitness, but when you're 14, 15, 16 years old, do a lot of functional fitness, but you still read those Flex.
Yeah.
All you do is like bench press
curls
and biceps.
And curls and curls.
So
that's getting huge.
I have you get neck injuries and neck issues, with all of that. So we've done the stupid thing as well. But then you just CrossFit has become a really, also in the in the military community, it's become a really kettlebells and everything else, because there's a lot of those workouts you also can do when you're abroad with limited equipment. Yeah. So, and when you go back in my old unit, you have now like a CrossFit box in the basement and stuff as well. So it's really, really, really great to see. But it's just find something that works for you, And when my wife, she was one of those 3 HIIT classes a day type, and followed by yoga type of thing, 0 progress because it just doesn't work.
Overtrained,
no resistance training and everything else. And then I started, putting her on the idea of like, you'd always say like back issues and everything else, neck issues and shoulders that were like this. And then I started doing resistance training with her, and it slowly got got better.
Yeah.
But I'm not a trainer. I know my body. I've trained since I was like, a kid, and it's just something that it comes back to this whole identity thing. It's like, that's just what you do.
Well, you do. Yeah.
It is like there's no question. This is just not like, I have to force myself. I was like, no, that's just you move and you train. You get times where you're a little bit lazier, where you go like, you train 3 times a week or 4 times a week, and half-assed, excuse my French, trainings, but then you have other times again, where you're more disciplined. You just go through cycles, but you never fall off the bandwagon and don't train.
Sure.
But I'm not a trainer, so I know how to move myself, but I can't break it down a complex movement. Telling someone how to clean or telling someone how even to squat. Squat is it's a very
complicated
movement.
Very.
And you just need to learn it at some point. And that's where a good trainer comes in. A good trainer is not someone that, charges you 100 dirhams and shows up every other time because, maybe there's someone else who pays him 200 comes.
Yeah.
But it's investment into education that's going to help you for the rest of your life.
How to do things. Yeah.
Learn about nutrition, the balance that, you only need to train 3 or 4 times a week if you do it properly.
Correct.
And, you learn the forms and everything else properly. You're not going to injure yourself. You're not going to run into any other of those challenges. And that's what you get with a really good trainer. And and that's a shout out, I bought her UP. There's a place called the Ultimate Performance in Dubai. Super expensive. It's the most expensive place that you can get.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, you know what? I don't see this as a personal trainer lessons for yourself. That's an investment into your health and well-being for the rest of your life.
True.
Interesting. And she's like, oh, but it's so expensive and everything else. And then she went there for like a month and she just loved it. So we did it for 3 months, extended it for another 3 months, there. And you go through cycles, you're fit and then life happens and you fall off again.
But you never forget those.
But never forget those lessons.
True.
You have internalized the movement patterns and everything else. You know how to push yourself. You've learned about the macros and everything else, which you never do if you don't if you're not really into it.
Of course.
And you're not gonna get fit if you step on the elliptical 3 times a week for 40 minutes.
So you don't advise somebody to Google how to squat?
No, well you can.
You can YouTube videos, man. YouTube videos. What are you talking about?
But if you can afford a trainer, get a trainer.
Wow. Absolutely. No, the importance of having a trainer, especially in those kind of sports, and a good trainer. You avoid injuries. You improve on your recovery time. And you're investing into your health, and that's something that will continue to pay off for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
You can't substitute for that.
No.
And it's not only working out, the nutrition, the rest that you need.
Sleeping 7.5 hours.
Just as equally important.
It's so easy, in the end, it's not rocket science. Nothing of that is rocket science. When
discipline.
you talk discipline. This is all it is in your life. Discipline, at work, you just discipline hurts in the moment, regret hurts forever. I think I have that on WhatsApp and I can't remember. I just picked it up somewhere. I didn't come up with that.
It's a good one.
It's a good one. Take credit for it.
Yeah. No, I just like, it's what it is. You be disciplined, you do what you said you were going to do. And, it's a stupid thing. I had to deliver something, for Same Solutions on Monday and really struggled with it because it was quite complex. And, on Sunday I was, really trying to get into it, but couldn't. And I was sat there until 3 o'clock in the morning until it was done. Like a student, But I said that I was going to deliver it on Monday. I was not gonna.
That's it. You have to.
And I was not going to deliver substandard work, so just do it. And the same goes with exercise and everything else.
True.
You just go. You put in your. You put together your routines, and you put the timer, and obviously having someone to do it with. Like I now do it with my wife, and we do the same routine when I have kettlebells now at home and everything else. It's just stuff that you do, and the same. And then the rest is like sleep 7.5 hours, drink 3 liters of water.
Yep.
Don't overeat, make sure you get your protein in and your healthy fat. Don't, fat doesn't make you fat.
True, exactly.
Cut out sugar, that's it.
Sugar is the
enemy.
Is the bastard.
Sugar is the enemy.
But look, I'm gonna pull you back a bit
Go
into the world of security again.
World of security.
Where do you think in these times, in the days that we're living in today, what has changed? What do you think is gonna change? How do you see your interaction with corporates?
You mean, so I think the interesting, discussion is more like, moving away from same a little bit and, moving in a general, security and security industry and everything else. I tend to mumble, sometimes, or, I think
we'll edit it. We'll find a way. We'll find a way to edit it
to make me sound smart.
Remember those like Arnold Schwarzenegger movies where they used to like actually just use this American guy is talking on him, and
he definitely doesn't need
sound
that.
like that. No.
No. But what I'm saying is like in the security industry, there's always been, and I'm gonna now just what should I say that undermine half of the industry. Was saying like it's always been the theme of like, oh, the world is gonna get more dangerous, it's gonna get more risky, it's gonna get more collapse, and it's just different. It's not, much, more complex than it used to be. Of course, being now in Corona times and everything else, that's another big issue. But it's just another big issue that we want to deal with the basics that we should have in place already anyways.
Fair.
Yeah, it's a change in direction.
It's just change in direction. And then you just take a step back and think about, what do you know? What do you assume? What's the scenarios that we're dealing here? What are my priorities and what should I do, with that, right
World
now?
will continue.
World will continue, and
work will always be there.
Work, it will be difficult and everything else. Obviously, it does have security implication.
Yes,
For that, and especially when you think about, in more developed worlds, right now, even, in places where people are unhappy, with the lockdowns and everything else. It's even seen as in the US, there's obviously concerns, right now with countries that might be less well equipped to either, deal with the issues now in the healthcare capacity, or that don't have, the fiscal, capacity or the economy, to deal with that,
to support it,
the supportive. But those are more complex issues. Those are natural consequences that you can deal with the frameworks that you have in place anyways.
Yeah.
So I think, is the world going to get more dangerous or more complex or anything else? No, it isn't. But it just reinforces the baseline that you need to have put in place. Yes, there's going to be more unrest in certain areas. There's going to be a little bit more crime here and there. But in places where crime was already a problem anyways in the first place, and now it's a little bit more, and it's going to get better at some point as well. So I always tend to, and you might have, in our day-to-day work, I always have had the philosophy of like stepping away from this, fear-mongering and everything else, and trying to break it down to, what's the real issue, here? It's like, you can be secure even if you don't feel it. You can, the other way around the world. Perception versus reality. And I always try to help people, to come back to, where perception meets reality as much or as close to reality as possible. And, but then, focus on what do we need to do about the issue right now? And then don't go left and right from that. And, it's a balance to be had, in all of that. So is the security situation more complex now than it used to be, 6-7 months ago? It's a little bit more complex, but it's still, you can deal with that with the parameters.
The foundation essentially stays the same.
Yeah, stays the same.
So it's just a matter of how you mitigate the risks out there.
Yeah, but it is definitely, obviously, it's a situation that many countries will struggle with or are struggling with already, and there are implications, in the short term, mid-term, and long term.
Absolutely.
Let's think about this. You have, security situation right now is actually better than it used to be.
Correct. I was seeing the statistics about South Africa.
Yeah.
So I had a friend of mine call me from South Africa, and he's like, what's funny? He's like, our death rates have actually gone down because of Corona.
Yeah.
Because their actual homicides and kind of violent crimes have reduced because of the stay at home, because of all of this. So it's actually helped them. So it's quite intriguing, quite interesting. But
there is obviously a concern over the midterm, and especially as people get impatient, they're running out of money and everything else. The first lockdown, people were like, okay, no one knows. And it's the right thing, absolutely. Totally,
For
I know there's this whole discussion about, Sweden is the right model and everything else, we didn't know,
We needed the time.
To
assess
and
figure out. Yeah.
And you need a brief, when you deal with a big issue or a complex issue, you need the time to put everything to rest right now. Because, it's very, during the time before the lockdown, everyone's just going back and forth. What's the right thing to do right now? What's here? What's there? Whatever. It's chaos. Once it was a lockdown, everyone's just at home,
Yeah.
And now we have the time to deal with the issue. So now you have the time to learn about this. Now you have the time to, figure out what are things that we think are going to work. And that's always like because we still don't know, we still don't know about half of the things. And now you can, now you're at the time where, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks in, you can slowly adjust and play with certain aspects. And you only want to, change 1 or 2 things.
Exactly.
Because otherwise
see
you don't
impact.
know. See the impact.
Yeah.
And then you learn, along the way. But now you move yourself 3, 4, 5, 6 months ago. Now we know all those things. Now you come back, you always have the discussion around what's the balance now between the economy, the public health, the community, the lifestyle and everything else, and everyone has different opinions around that. And that's where the challenge comes in. When an unrest is a concern, where you see this in the US and in countries who are more liberal, where it might be a little bit more concerning. And then obviously you have the cyber side, that is taking advantage of that now as well.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. We're living in very interesting times, very unique.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you're gonna look back, when you're a grandfather talking to your grandkids and be I lived through that time. And it was wild.
We saw that post on this one Instagram post was talking about person born in the 1900s.
And someone born 1900, exactly.
Exactly 1900s.
Yeah.
So they went through the Spanish plague. Something like 20 million people died.
50.
I don't know the exact numbers.
Spanish flu, 50 million.
Yeah.
Spanish flu, depression, World War I, World War II, Vietnam. Like it goes on and on and
the
on.
1980 recession.
And then a kid
crisis.
born in 1980 tells his grandfather, "Oh, it's a tough time that we're living in."
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I went to in the past 80 years?
Yeah.
And that's not too far off. That's literally 100 years ago, 120 years ago. So
And
life will move on.
Life will move
We'll
on.
have to adjust.
Yeah.
It'll be a different world, definitely. But I think we'll come up on the upside eventually.
We'll get through this.
We'll have to.
We'll get through it.
Life goes on.
It's an interesting dynamic though, and just seeing the people that you have had on your podcast and the views that they've had around all those different things, and we have to acknowledge that there is there's different ways, there's different
Absolutely.
There's many ways to roam, and we what I was gonna say. And regardless of what you do, there will always be people on the other side of the fence. They will say that you did too much or you did too little.
And is it.
That is it. You can't win as a government, and everything else you can't win. And everyone, you have to give people the benefit of the doubt. Obviously, it's more interesting when you look at what's happening in the US and how politicized it is, the whole debate that you have there, and they look at other countries, and you look at this whole thing where everyone's just looking at Sweden as the perfect model and everything else, where people are just unhappy and just looking for this little bit of hope that they can find
exactly.
for us. And hope, that's the only thing, is one of the points that I was hoping that we're gonna get to speak to. Hope is dangerous in all of this.
Really?
I think so.
Very interesting
from a mental perspective.
Okay.
Because I think and there's something and it's really funny. I was thinking a lot about this over the last couple of days, because hope sets you up for disappointment. And
interesting.
And it's one. I'm not saying we shouldn't be hopeful.
Yeah.
But I think what we should be is realistic. And it's one of those things. There was this guy, and it's like taking one step back. I've had a couple of discussions with people who are stuck abroad over the last couple of days, where they're now getting impatient because they've been stuck now for 2 months, 3 months, whatever. In a situation that is outside of their control. They had hoped it was going to be, how it is. Like it's a lockdown, it's for 4 weeks, now it's 8 weeks.
They're going to come up with a vaccine in 2 months, don't worry. People
they always say, hope for the best, but plan for the worst.
Yeah, but I think it's the other way around. You never want to, you definitely want to acknowledge that this situation is going to last.
Yeah.
The situation is, you want to prepare yourself mentally and, calculate mentally with the worst case scenario. You can always be hopeful. But if all you have is we're now 4 weeks and then it's done, and then it just kills you mentally the second or third time. And it's really funny. I heard of funny. So you want to? No.
To your point, it'll expose you to danger, because you think in 4 weeks things will be better. Yeah. You go out in public, you might catch get infected or something like that, where you're just operating on hope, which is a false sense of hope. It's not realistic.
It's outside of your control. And what you have in your control is how you respond to it. And I think it's the mental. What I find from a safety and security and whatever perspective, when you look at it, to deal with that is fairly straightforward. You have certain rules that the government puts in front of you. Like we have here. You're allowed to meet with your friends below 10 people, but you shouldn't do this and that. Yeah. And you deal with that. You wear a mask outside. You just you deal with it. You follow the protocols. Okay. So that's very straightforward. But you don't control any of that. You don't control whether the protocols are not going to be effective, and therefore the lockdown is going to be removed, or whether there's a vaccine in September now in Oxford. The Oxford vaccine comes out in September. Yeah. You don't know.
Nobody knows.
And if you hope for this and you get disappointed, I think it's much more difficult to deal with the situation from a mental perspective than from a safety and
realistic.
I get your point. I feel like you just put a blanket statement, so that's the only reason that I would kind of challenge it.
Yeah.
Like to say no to hope.
Oh no, I'm saying no. Sorry, let me recap this.
Just crushed everyone's dreams, guys.
I don't think that what he was.
No, I'm joking.
No. Let me restate the point.
We are doomed.
We're doomed. No. You should be realistic that this is gonna take 18 to 24 months.
Absolutely.
And that's what you want to prepare for.
Yes.
You want to be realistic that at any given time, wherever you are in the world, you're going to be locked in for another 2 months.
Yeah.
You want to be hopeful that it might not happen, and then we might have this, but the baseline of this, it's what you want to set your expectation on.
Absolutely.
Is
100%.
to prepare yourself for worst case scenario. And there was this guy, Admiral Stockdale, and that's like a military thing that they tell you and everything else, who was in Vietnam, and he was like as a prisoner of war there for 7.5 years. He got the Medal of Honor then afterwards, and that's something that a theory that he developed is around that. You really want to prepare yourself. You want to be realistic and say like, no, I'm in that situation that I might not get out of it. I will do my best to get through it, and I hope the situation is gonna be done in 3 months. But I might be here for 7.5 years, which or forever, which he was in the end. And what he found is like those who lie to themselves, it's like, oh, it's just belittle the situation and everything else. Those were the first one to break.
Yeah.
And you've had that with discussions, and with travelers over the last couple of weeks, where you try to shift their mindset a little bit and say like, hey, I know you're frustrated in the situation where you are right now. Maybe we are now at the point where we have to realize that there's nothing that we can do right now.
Something that you're going to have to cope with.
Yeah.
I think a good book that addresses that is the 7 Habits.
Oh, absolutely.
Because he talks about the circle of influence.
Yeah.
So he's like, you have a circle around you, which is things that are happening to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you have your circle of influence, which are things that you can dictate or influence. And you should keep your focus on that
what you can
smaller
control.
Circle, which is the things that you can actually, so you can wake up and go to the gym.
Yeah.
You can wake up and decide to eat healthy for the day, but you can't control the weather, if it's going to make your working out outdoor or indoor. So just focus on the things that you can keep control of, and the other things that'll happen around
Basics.
But that circle is always evolving and changing. So that's what one person has to keep in mind, is that tomorrow I might not be able to go to the gym, but that's not going to stop me from working out.
From exercising.
So I can work out at home.
Exactly. Circle of influence. You can influence that. You can't influence that the gyms are closed, but you can go get yourself a set of kettlebells at home and work out or do some exercise or not work out like I'm doing.
Different question.
Eat cake.
Favorite books after this one?
Ooh, so many, to be honest.
And one lesson learned that you've implemented from it. I think that's the bigger one.
Wow, you've just put me on the spot.
Yeah.
Totally caught me off guard.
You put out the 7 Habits.
Yeah, 7 Habits. It's always one that's kind of stuck in my brain. It's just weird because right now I'm reading specific books.
Yeah.
So I'm on the selfish gene right now. If you've ever heard of it.
No.
It's written by a scientist, and it just basically talks about from the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
Not the Big Bang Theory. From the point of humanity being formed, how genes and chromosomes act selfishly. And that's what's developed life. And each species is essentially a derivative of a selfish genetic chromosome that's just trying to survive and create itself. It's unbelievable. I'm quite new in it, but quite like first couple of chapters, but it's just so amazing, so well written and kind of simplified. So that's where my brain is right now. I'm just trying to think what other. I'm a big fan of Peter Drucker.
Yes.
So the Drucker Essentials. So it's just a compilation of a lot of his different works. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Da Vinci Code.
Well, so what's the one thing that you implemented from Da Vinci Code?
Actually,
conspiracy.
I don't have a favorite book, but my most recent one that had an impact on me was "You Can't Hurt Me," or "Can't Hurt Me." The David Goggins, which is also a special forces guy.
Brilliant one. David Goggins is awesome.
Amazing.
I mean, read that book? That looks like a book that you'd have read.
I ran a marathon, this year, and then the last 20 kilometers or 15 kilometers, I had David Goggins' motivation
in your head. He was yelling,
just go hard.
He's amazing.
Don't be weak. It's like
amazing.
Yeah, he's a great guy. It's a great story. Fascinating.
Maybe we should. He just raised the point now. Maybe we should have a podcast about books, just about the best books.
Yeah, it'll get us to read a lot more.
Yeah.
Well, this is one of the reasons why I did the podcast is start reading more. And that's why I'm starting to try to engage in so many different books. But just sitting there and saying, like, of all the books that you read, what would stand out? It's a really tough question, man. I just I see all these titles. When I close my eyes, I see all these titles come up my face. So maybe, we structure it in a way and just kind of make some recommendations. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Heimo.
Anytime, my friend.
Man, this was really, really, really cool. I really appreciate it. Hopefully we get a chance to get you back.
Hope so.
If you're up for
Hope
it.
so.
Anytime.
We'd love to have you on again.
Definitely.
Thank you guys for joining us for another episode. Honestly, subscribe, like, share, tell your friends, keep following us, join the movement. We're taking over. Come with us on this ride, man. Much love. Really appreciate it. Thanks a lot again. Take care.
Thanks, Heimo.
No worries.
Cheers.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.